This is a presentation on the system development life cycle. The system development life cycle is a process to ensure that the systems are developed with good quality. It usually consists of 6 phases. We have requirements, design, development, testing, training, and deployment. All of these phases are coordinated effort to ensure that the process of developing the system produces a good quality system. As a project manager or a project team, understanding these 6 phases is important to understand the process of developing a system, and it will help you manage that process to make sure that you get a good system. The SDLC, the System Development Lifecycle, consists of these phases and they are interrelated. They usually follow a cycle in which you go to requirements, to solutions, to the development, testing, the user training, and deploying. That is usually the idea of the cycle. But it's not just one cycle. The idea is that within those phases there are opportunities for feedback. What happens is that once you get the requirements, they are approved, they go into designing the solution. During designing, there is an opportunity to provide some feedback and say, make changes on the requirements. Once the design of the solution, you go to the development, and there is an opportunity to test that solution. During testing, there is also an opportunity to go back and make changes to the requirements or to the design. The idea that this provides a good opportunity to make those changes that will improve the quality of the system. The feedback can happen even after you're doing some user training and deploying the solution. You will always have opportunities to provide feedback into the different phases and start making those little changes. The idea is that nothing is written in stone the moment you have a requirements or you have a design, but the opportunities for that will increase the chances of success of the system. Let's look at the first phase, requirements. They deal with the functionality of the system, the type of software and hardware, who are going to be the users, the type of reports, the security, and the environment in which the system is going to be used. So it's important to understand that concept, that all those requirements are well captured and understood by the team and by the consultant or developer of the system. The system design is a process of think about developing the blueprints for building a house. At this moment, the developer will build some prototypes or mock-ups. They will help you understand the user interface, how the user of the system will be able to work with the system. It also deals with decisions about the type of database, software, and hardware. The idea is that you are able to see a mock-up, a kind of a representation of what the system will look like, and that is a good opportunity for people to understand what are those components and how those requirements are actually being put into a visual representation that help people understand how the system will work. Once a design is approved, then the developer goes into the development of the system. That means he starts working with the software, the hardware, gets the communication, and works on the test plans and the test environment. That is the moment when the developer works very hard with all the code, with all the software, and also starts building some of the instructional manuals. Once you have the system developed or a component of the system developed, then comes the system test. And there are 2 types of tests, the technical, which is done by the developer, and the user test. And this one is important because it helps us identify if there are any problems with the system. So it's a process of finding solutions for the errors and getting the acceptance of that module or the system by the users. And this is an important one because if you don't accept it until the developer has fixed all the errors or problems with the system. The next one, once the system is completed, is system training. So you have the user manuals, you have a user training plan, you build the support during that process and make sure that everybody understands the roles and access levels of the systems. You can have these formal or informal training sessions where people are going to be working on a system, using their manuals, making sure they understand and they know how to use the system. The next phase is deployment. Once your team and the people in the project know how to use the system, it's a moment of deploying, and you might have a plan that defines the schedule, the resources needed. There's going to be work in terms of setting up hardware. Maybe some people need new computers, installing the new software. There might be some need to data conversion. That means that you might have an old system that needs to convert it to the new system. And we begin with the process of operational support. The next and last phase in the cycle is the system support and maintenance. That means that users are going to be needing some support. They're going to be needed for some modifications and improvements on the system. And the idea is that during that life cycle, at the end of that phase, you are left with a system that it meets the needs of the project. Thank you. This has been a presentation on the system development life cycle.